Hello, beautiful, and welcome to the Mom Talk Sex podcast with me, Marie Elvington, your host. Transform your reality, where I help women step out of sexual trauma and reclaim their feminine power. I'm so honored and happy to have with me the beautiful Pippa today. Hey, Pippa.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks.
I'm so happy to have you here on our show. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about you and a little bit about your story?
Well, I'm a new stepmom, so I haven't birthed any children yet, but it's something that I really want in the future. And the reason why I wanted to come on is because I think being a stepmom can kind of put us into a bit of a different category of, well, you're not a real mom, and I felt that when I became a stepmom with my husband. I've just got married 6 weeks ago, so that's kind of, thank you. And what's unique about my story is I was a stepmom from afar for a long time because of the border closures. My husband was in New Zealand and I was in the UK. And just being a stepmom from afar, playing games with them online, getting to know them as much as I could because I hadn't met them physically. And that was really tough. And my husband was a single dad at the time, on his own here in New Zealand, and I was stuck in the UK. And when I got here last May, I just slotted into the boys' lives. So great. It was amazing. They loved me so much. And I just feel like, I am a mum. Like, I'm doing mum things. I'm cooking the dinners. I'm doing the lunches for school. I'm making them breakfast. I'm tucking them in at night. I'm giving them love as I would my own children. So I just felt like I need to, talk more about this because I am a mum, a real mum, even though I haven't given birth yet. So I think it's important, for the listeners who are stepmothers, you are a mother. We all have maternal instincts, and you have two, three, four, one beautiful child through your husband, through a wife to take care of, and they look up to you. They look up to you as a figure, so I think it's important to realize that, that we, even though we're stepmoms, we're mothers.
I love that. So that was probably really hard on your relationship to be far away for 18 months.
Yes.
How do you keep that fire going for 18 months when you don't see each other?
It was very difficult. So just so people know, I'm very spiritual and I've done a lot of healing, and so is my husband. And it brought up so much stuff to heal in a sense of fears, insecurities, all that stuff, trust. There's so much going on, especially with the time difference. I was living with my parents. He's a single dad here on his own, trying to handle a job and the kids and school runs and after school care and things like that. So I felt helpless because I couldn't be the mother and help him out as the wife, etc., etc. But I think it all came down to the commitment to each other, the commitment to our healing, the commitment to trust and faith. Like, our faith and trust was tested many times through the pandemic, especially because of the borders and not knowing when it's going to open. It was complete, to be honest, it was probably the most hard and profound experience of our life because it was the unknown. It was the total unknown. It was the unknown of, and isn't that life? Life is unknown. So it kind of helped us to just kind of sit in the whole, this is what it's meant to be.
Yeah, I love that. Was there anything that you guys maybe created together to keep you guys interested with each other and to still be in that vibe, in the sexual vibe? Because obviously you can't touch. So how do you overcome that barrier? When obviously you have your own needs, your own wants, right? And that's a long time.
Yeah. There was definitely a lot of video, phone, all that kind of stuff to keep us going. And I think a lot of it came to spiritual because, this podcast is called Mums Taught Sex. Now, sex doesn't need to be physical. It can be anything. It's about connection, intimacy. And for us, we thought outside the box. So we would meditate together. We would jump on a Zoom like this and we would play games together. So we'd play games and jump on video or audio. We'd watch a Netflix show together and we'd come on Zoom and mute each other and press play at the same time. We did so much together. When it came down to like trying to keep our intimacy, somewhat connected, it was difficult. So all I would say to people, if you are in a long distance relationship, or if you're not, this can be for if you're not as well, is, it doesn't have to be sexual intercourse. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. If anyone can answer that question, it's me, because we are very physical people. Me and my husband, very sexual people, want touch, want to kiss, want to hold, and not having that was very difficult. And I think we had to just think of ways to keep us connected in so many other ways, in a spiritual way, in a mental way, in an emotional way. So those things that we did, we would journal together, sit on Zoom and journal together. We would meditate together. We would obviously watch the shows. We'd watch YouTubes together, things like that. And it just kept us ticking over as much as we can. And obviously from the sex side, we would send videos, send pictures, just to keep ourselves excited. And we would talk about fantasies. We would talk about what's going to happen when we see each other. And it just kept us going. It kept us going through the 18 months. And it is a long time to be apart. It really is.
So is there any tips that you can give moms that are listening now? Maybe they're like you, a lot of moms that have husbands away or that leave for a long period of time from work, right? Or military or anything that's long distance, or even maybe some tips and tricks that can help them now in their marriage now if they feel kind of distance, even if the husband is in the house and they feel distant, how sometimes we can feel, even though we're surrounded with people, we can still feel alone, right?
Yeah.
So what are maybe some tips or tools you can give that would really help them step into that and kind of feel closer to their person?
Well, what's coming up is, I know a lot of women that I work with as well that live with their husbands and they feel so disconnected from their husbands. Now I have clients who their husbands work away Monday to Friday and they feel more connected because they're having that break in between. So there's definitely that, you can see the opposites. But I think especially from if you're living with your husband 24/7, it depends on your routine as well. We can get very, very sucked into a routine of wake up, get the breakfast done for the kids, get them to school. You're at work all day, you're stressed out, you come home, you feed the kids, you put them to bed, and then you just flop. And I think the key is to take time for yourself as much as taking time for your husband, for your wife. It's important to take time for yourself. Now, I would definitely recommend having a date night each week. Now, date night doesn't need to be let's go out for dinner, let's go to the movies, let's go for a walk. It can be anything. It can be let's put our phones away for an hour. Let's plug them in the kitchen and let's go and sit in the lounge, watch a Netflix show. Let's chat. Let's connect. Let's ask each other questions. Let's meditate. Let's, because it's hard when you've got the kids. You can't just go out for walks together, especially if you've got young children. We have 2 dogs as well. So trying to get out with the dogs together is hard when we've got the kids. We have the kids on and off. But if you've got your kids full time, I know how it is, especially when the kids are here for that week on, week off, everything is kind of like kid mode. You go into kid mode and you forget about your needs. Now, there's a huge, huge, huge thing that I learned, and it's something we hear every time we fly on an airplane. And I never really thought about it until someone's told me this, and it's stuck in my head forever. And when you're on an airplane traveling to wherever you're going, the air hostess will say, please put your oxygen mask on first before helping others. Now, as mums, we don't. We just leave our oxygen mask here and we just forget about it. And we just keep our kids happy and we forget about us in the process. Now, if you think about the logistics around putting your own oxygen mask on before helping others, if you don't, because for me, I was like, I'd have to put people on first because I'm such a people pleaser. I'm such a caring person. And I started to realize if I don't, I could die in the process. But if I do put my own oxygen mask on first, which takes 10 seconds, I could help my family plus many more. And that's the same for life, isn't it? If we're putting our own oxygen mask on first as a mother, as a wife, as a sister, as a daughter, whatever it is, all these different labels that we then can add extra love, extra energy, extra everything to our family, to our children, to our husbands, to our siblings, to our parents. But if you're just running on empty and your glass is never full, you're going to feel depleted. You're not going to want to have sex. You're going to want to go to sleep because you can't be bothered, because you are literally drained of energy, drained of life, drained of just being the mom, the wife, the everything to everyone. And you can't do it. You can't physically do it all the time. So my husband and I, we make time for each other. We make time. And if we feel like that's slipping, the biggest tip and trick I can give anyone listening is communication. It is the biggest thing in a relationship. It's hands down the most important thing in a relationship. And we find it so hard to communicate because we're scared about what they're going to say. We've been taught to be quiet, with all our trauma. That's another rabbit hole I can go down a different time, but we've got so much suppressing us, people pleasing, and depending on what kind of relationship we're in and things like that. So there are so many tips and tricks I can give women, especially mums, but it definitely is about putting your oxygen mask on first, taking the quality time with your husband and your partner, because that is important. That is important because they want to be seen and heard as much as your kids want to be seen and heard. We are just children in adults' bodies, and we want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be hugged. We want to be kissed. We want to be held. And you really, really want that. So to give yourself time for that is ultimately so important in your life. And then when all these little things that seem little, they add up. And then you really want to connect with your husband or your partner, whatever relationship you're in, because you have more life at the end of the day. There will be some days where you are literally absolutely depleted because you've had so much on. Some nights my husband and I will just want to cuddle in bed and just kiss and just talk intimately about things. It doesn't have to be physical. I think it's getting creative with the 3-letter word, which is sex. It's getting very creative and open to different things.
Yes, I love it. And there's no right or wrong way. It's all about, jumping in and learning how you enjoy pleasure and what does pleasure mean to you. I know a lot of people talk about the love languages, but I also believe that it's really how you like to be touched, right? And if you don't experience that with yourself, your partner can't guess that. So by taking that time for yourself and really exploring your own body and your own sensuality and really, like you said, healing those parts of you that might have been shamed and might have been abused and might have been neglected for so long is key to start that healing journey for yourself. So this was such an amazing conversation. Maybe you can share with us if my listeners want to find more about you and what you do a little bit, where they can do that.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention as well, like one thing that, especially when you're talking about exploring yourself, a big question that I ask clients, because I do a lot of hypnosis and healing and spiritual mentorship, and I am getting into more sex therapy because I've always loved talking about it. I've always been very open about it, and I was always the friend that would turn the conversation sexual, and my friends would all be like, oh my God, Pip, you're always I'm like, well, we've been given these amazing things in our body to feel. Pleasure is the most amazing thing ever that we've been given on this planet.
Yes.
And we don't use it to the best of our ability. If I can recommend a book for you all to read, is Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsh. It's a 9-book series. I interviewed him on the podcast a few weeks ago. He's a massive spiritual teacher of mine, and it's not a religious book, it's a spiritual book, and he basically downloads messages from God, and he asks the questions that we all want to ask, and he talks about pleasure and he talks about sex, and it just makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. And when my clients come here, I learn a lot about their life story, and one question I ask them, and they just kind of they tense up when I ask them, do you play with yourself? Do you masturbate? Do you touch yourself? And they're like they're just so anti no. And I'm here saying, do you know how beautiful you are? Do you know how amazing you are? Like, look at yourself. And I have, mirrors in the house, and I take them to the mirror. I say, look at that. Look at you. Just look yourself in the eye. Look deep in that eye of yours and see how beautiful you are. And they just break down because they're so tense. They're so full of this negative energy, and they're so full of stagnant energy. And I said, you just need to let it go. And when they start to do that and they start to masturbate and play, like, they just release so much shit that's in their bodies. And it's insane, because I was like that. I didn't think it was the right thing to do, and it wasn't normal, etc., being younger. As I got older, I'm like, this is the most normal thing we can do. We are creators. We create. We birth. We're the most amazing things on the planet. Like, we birth and we create, and that helps us to get into that energy, that creation energy. Is, when we are masturbating, we are, having an orgasm. It's very, very good for creation, very good for that, release. The most amazing things I've come up with, as in what I've downloaded and the messages I've received, has been after that. because
Yeah.
you're in this state of the dopamine and, you know, you just all the endorphins. It's like, woo, it's a natural high that you can give yourself. So if you're not doing it, I would definitely say go and try, because it's the most amazing thing you'll ever do. And then
Yes, yes, yes.
you feel more connected to yourself.
That is so true. And just last night, we had amazing sex. And it was the same. I was laying up like afterwards because I was downloaded so much information about
Yeah.
all this, and it was like, this is amazing. But it is 2 in the morning to go to bed.
Yeah.
But this
And
is so true. And that's exactly what I say and what I talk about and what I preach and what I heal the same, right? It's like we are born with these amazing bodies, and everything that we have here is for us to feel and experience pleasure. And cutting that off because we're ashamed for it and judged for it and, feared of it, that's our given right. We came here to experience pleasure. That's the only thing we came here to do. And anything that's preventing you from doing that, you need to ask yourself, who does that belong to? Really, right? Like those beliefs that I have about masturbating, about touching myself, where did that come from? Who does it belong to? You weren't born with it.
Yeah, you have to ask yourself as well, are those beliefs mine, or were they chosen for me? Because a lot of the time they're chosen for you.
Yeah.
Especially from parents and grandparents and things like that. And it is about detaching, and creating your own beliefs. Again, creation. And the more in touch you feel with yourself, it opens up a total different world to you. I'm very spiritual, so I have that spiritual sense and spiritual aspect to a lot of things. So when it comes down to that, I do bring the spiritual stuff in, especially when we talk about Tantra. That's something that I'm getting very much into, because it is, again, about being open to different things, being open to trying new things, especially because we're so routine. And I am the type, I get bored. I don't like routine. I don't mind routine every now and then, but, school runs are school runs. I have to leave at a certain time, etc. But I have to switch it up. I have to change. I have to try new outfits. I have to buy new toys. I have to keep trying different things, because life is about exploring. Life is about being open and trying things. Some things you may not like, some things you may love, but it's about, ultimately, this is your journey. This is your body. This is your exploration of yourself. It's all about self. Like, I teach self-awareness. Go back to your question that you asked me more, was I teach self-awareness. It's a big thing that I teach, because the more self-aware you can become of yourself, the more you can be aware of your trauma, of why you're being triggered, of your fears, of your anxieties, of where the stress is coming from. You can be self-aware. I don't fully believe we ever fully heal. We don't fully heal. We peel back layers of a traumatic event, of a healing, a belief, or whatever it is. We don't fully heal, but we do start to realize, oh, I'm triggered because of da 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 da. Oh, she annoyed me because of da 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 da. So you start to become more self-aware of why you feel that way. I've just had a example this morning. Before I jumped on with you, I took the dogs out for a walk, and I didn't think anything of it. But when I come on the car park, I've got a big 4x4, so parking spaces are always quite tight for me anyway. But the car on the right was a bit far over, so I couldn't really get straight into the space, and there was only that space available. So I just got in as much as I could. Went for a lovely walk. I was so grateful. The sun's out. I was just in awe of life. I get back to my car, and there's a lovely note on my window, and I can't really read it, but it's about parking properly and blah blah blah. So someone's took the time to write a lovely note and leave it on my door, on my window. And the little ego in me wants to go, how dare she? And I just stopped and said, oh, that must have really upset her. And I just kind of thought about it, and I sent a picture to my husband, and he actually text back and said, what would Wayne do? Now, a big spiritual teacher of mine is Wayne Dyer, and we always say this, me and my husband, what would Wayne do? And I just said, he'd just rip it up, throw it away, and he'd send a love. And that's exactly what I did. I just got home, I ripped it up, and I just put my hands on my heart, and I said, whoever sent this, please send them love for today. To get to that space, it isn't easy, and it still tests me, and it's still an opportunity. You really want to, sometimes you want to go right into that victim mode of how dare she, and you want to, curse all day, but really deep down, it's an opportunity for me to go, I really send you love. And that's, there's so many elements to what we're talking about, isn't it, more? There's so many different rabbit holes we could go down, but ultimately this is about you. And anyone listening to this, you beautiful mum, you're a beautiful woman, you're a beautiful wife, partner, daughter, mother, sister. You really are. And to start to believe that, and when you start to believe that, everything will start to change in your body.
Yes.
Because how you see your body too, if you're not in harmony with your body, if you don't like your body. I used to hate my body. I used to hate it. And that's a strong word. We don't ever use that word anymore in this house. We've banned the H word. And we've banned the B word, which is blame. Because we just, you've chosen this beautiful body to be in this life. Why?
Yeah.
Get curious. Curiosity. It's a big thing. We're all curious, aren't we? Why are we here? What's this earth spinning in an universe doing? What's the point? Get curious about yourself. Get curious about what you want. Be confident in what you want. Be confident in your desires. Be confident with your sexuality. There's something you want to try, speak to your husband. And if I can touch on this really quick more, because it's coming up for me. I don't know if you spoke about this with other mums, but the anxiety around porn, that's a big, big one that I speak to clients about a lot. Oh yeah, I caught him on porn. Now I know how that feels, because that's how I used to be that way. Now I don't. It doesn't bother me. It really doesn't bother me. And the thing is, what's interesting is my husband doesn't really like it anymore, because he's got me. He's got me. And I think I asked a client a question a few months ago, and it really shook hers. And because I asked these really direct questions, and I said, what bothers you about porn? Well, he's watching other women and he's playing with himself and he's not giving me any attention. But actually it comes down to a feeling of lack in self, a lack that they're better than you, that they're more sexual than you. But ultimately we spent 5 hours together, because we did hypnosis together. And, ultimately it came down to the fact that, she wasn't being sexual. She wasn't being open. She wasn't, fulfilling her needs, which then didn't fulfill his needs. And it all comes down to that. We all have needs. There's women out there who watch porn and the guys get jealous. So there's the contrast. It's not all about the men. It's both. But if you can see it in a different light, is that my husband will watch it every now and then. If I'm not well and it's been a few days where I've not been feeling well or something like that, but I'm like, okay, babe, go enjoy. Let me know what you thought about it. What video did you watch? Get curious, and you start to just let go of the I'm a victim, because you're not. You really are not. You are so beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with you. It's just, if any women want to reach out to me about this, please feel free. Follow me on Instagram. I am Pippa Leslie. Message me. I'm so open. My inbox is open. If you've got any just them little that annoy you so much, you just want to reach out to just vent, I'm here for a listening ear. And if you need any further help, that's what I'm here for. So
I love that so much. And it was such an honor to have you here. Really. It was a gift. I loved every moment, and I'm sure our listeners did too.
Me too.
So we'll share your links and info on the podcast so women can reach out to you and vent. I think that would be great for them.
Yes.
And I will see you, or thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week.